All right, welcome back, class 4 of painting clouds, trees, and water. And I'm excited. We are finally starting painting water, which means a lot of dealing with reflections, movement, depth, and angles. And so there's so much to water that it's very easy for me and I'm sure for you to overanalyze things. And when I overanalyze, a lot of times I want to look for a formula or a system. And truthfully, when it comes to water, above all else, all other things in painting, formulas don't work. So I'm just going to right off the bat just say, you know what? And this is kind of going to be a funny thing for a teacher to say, but it really comes down to observing and observation. There are definitely some things that we can do. There's some, I don't want to say tricks, but some painting techniques that really help create the illusion of water and reflections. And there's different ways of building up the paint that really add to it. But the truth is there's no, I mean, there are, but no scientific just formulas that we can use because, you know, a lot of times people like water is blue, right? And so just more blue, more makes it more water, but we very quickly will realize how fake and artificial that feels. And that in fact, water is just kind of like the tofu of anything. It takes on the flavor and color and tone of everything around it. And so it really does come down to asking those good questions. What is my light source, right? That's one of my very first questions for all paintings. What is my light source? What is the angle of the light hitting the water and everything else? So we'll be going over that. This week, we're going to be dealing with flatter water, more like creeks, streams, and next week we will be dealing with oceans and maybe waterfalls, kind of more active, more where the water takes on a whole nother form, a whole nother structure. All right, everybody doing okay? Good to
Finally
see
got
you
in.
guys. All right, good morning, Gail. Good morning, Jill.
Hi.
Good morning, Susan. All right, I'm excited.
So are we.
Yeah, and thank you guys for posting onto the Facebook page. I actually would like to, this week, before I get too far into the lesson, go ahead and jump over to our Facebook group and quickly look at some of our paintings that you guys turned in during the week, and then we will get back to water. So I'm going to do share screen. All right, and while I'm over here, everybody's seeing the Facebook page? Great. While I'm over here, just quickly, did everybody get an email from me about with the notes about ideas on painting water?
Yes.
No, but then
Oh.
I just signed up for these classes again today, Michael, so I may not have been on your list.
Oh,
I didn't get mine.
I didn't get mine either, Michael.
uh-oh. Okay.
I did.
I will double
Yeah, I
check
didn't.
on
I
that.
did.
You did, Susan?
Yep. Thank
Okay.
you, Michael. Thank you.
Yeah, so I only sent them
Hi,
to
Gail. Hi, Gail.
evidently.
Hello.
I haven't seen her too
All
much.
right. And I just
Well,
went
that-
through. So if you guys are ever having a hard time adding images to the Facebook page, you can simply email the picture to me and I'll do my best to add it to the I'll add it to the page for you. This is Catherine's painting of trees, and what a nice, complicated, but at the same time beautiful scene she picked here. And
I'm
Catherine,
sorry that, Michael, that I must not know how to take photos because that is so washed out. It's amazing. So at least you got the movement.
there you go. Yeah, it's always difficult. iPhones, you know, or smartphones are always a little bit tough.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
there's
mean,
sometimes
just,
I'll post 3 different pictures where I take the photos back to back to back, just slightly moving my camera. And it's amazing how different each photo
Mhm.
looks, even though it's the same phone, same conditions, literally just a second apart. So I think we all kind of understand that. I think we're all always a little bit unhappy.
Oh my
But-
gosh, this is just, it looks like it's so washed out. It's just like an underpainting. So,
Interesting.
well, it's too bad, but oh well.
So yeah, tell us a little bit about this scene there.
For me,
Yep.
it's,
Why did
it's,
you
um,
do this?
it's a movement in the very back there where there's a really bright area back there. All this area in here was just on fire. And this over here on the right side, on the left side, all those bushes, they were just the pink and everything on that side was on fire with the light coming through the trees and coming in from behind, like to the back of the left of us. And then the tree that I have in the middle that has no branches on it, just a snag, actually has a dark kind of a blue, and you can kind of see a third of the way down where there is a little light blue in there, but it's actually with the colors and everything that was in there, it was more robust. So it just really sat in there. And then this branch that comes in across over from others trees and that kind of stuff was actually, it was so much more forward. So it's like you were standing on a hill or back behind it, so that you were looking through the branches down into those trees. So you don't have any depth perception from this picture.
Great. Well, would you like to have depth perception?
Sure.
Okay, so
you
what
can
I
do
would,
it
yeah,
on
what
this
I would
picture.
suggest we do.
Oh, no, I had it. What I'm saying is my picture doesn't show that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But a quick way to do that is you see, and again, I know we're dealing with a lousy photo or whatever. But do you see how dark your shadows are back here, very far back?
Okay.
If
Yeah,
you
that's-
lighten and cool those shadows down a touch, it will fall back, it'll recede into space. And that is the difficult thing about working from photos versus working from life is when we take photos, especially in kind of a darker environment or where it's trying to get the strong contrast of like an area being hit by strong light as well as dark shadows, what will happen is it will have to choose. The camera will have to choose, do I make the brights really bright and end up making all the shadows very, very dark? Or do I make the shadows lighter where you can see the detail, but end up washing out the light areas?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Well, yes.
Okay, so when we paint from photos, we are kind of obligated in a way to think like a human looking at a photo. Like, what is the camera doing that's different than how we see, right? Is it darkening the darks? Is it bleaching out the lights? Like, it's very easy to tell when somebody's painting from a photo, especially a bad photo, because of those two things. Either the lights, the sky, or whatever area gets overly bleached out, or the shadows get overly dark. So when I am photographing with something that I know that I'm going to end up painting at some point, like I'm just like, this is amazing, I can't believe I'm here to witness this. I've got to capture it because I don't have my paints, but I do have my smartphone, my iPhone. So what I will do is on the phone, when I'm looking at the scene, is I will touch on the screen into the lightest portion of the painting. I mean, the lightest portion of the scene, take a photo. I will then touch into the shadow area of the screen, and all of a sudden the lights will get bleached out, but that's okay because what the camera is now doing is saying, oh, Mike cares about the shadows, the dark area. So let's give him the detail and the information that's there, right? And then I will touch into somewhere in the middle, and that will kind of give me my most cohesive scene. But between all three of those photos, then I can come back into the studio. I will print them up or have all three of them up on my monitor. And I can say, you know what? I don't want just big dark shadows, or I don't want a bleached out sky. So I will look at all three of these different images, right? And if you're like, oh man, I don't want to print, three different prints to paint from, because that's $1 each print for ink, it's totally worth it. It is totally worth the extra $1 or $2 to have the extra prints, and I'll oftentimes have a black and white version as well.
And you take them outside to do that, or what did you say? I mean, you take a picture and then you put your hand on the area and take another picture of it.
Yeah, so I'm not
And then
talking about
continue with that
photographing.
process.
Yeah, I'm not talking about photographing or painting. I'm talking about photographing the scene that I'm going to make a painting from.
Right.
So let's say I'm at Cannon Beach, we're looking at Haystack Rock. The sun is setting, right?
Yeah.
So if I take a picture of the beautiful sunset, the rock will just be a big black mass, a big dark shape.
Yeah.
Right? But I'll get the beautiful colors in the sky better. So then what I would do is say, okay, I've captured my sunset, I've got the colors, I've got the, the clouds. So now I will touch on my phone the rock, I'll touch on Haystack Rock, and all of a sudden the sky will get bleached out, but I already have that in another photo. And the rock, all of a sudden I'll be able to see into the darks and the detail there.
Okay.
So then I'll take that photo, and then maybe what I would do is touch into the shadow being cast on the beach, because that would be kind of a mid value, or maybe just the beach itself.
Got it. Okay.
So then I'm working with 3 photos. When I get home, I can convert them to black and white, so I can just worry about that. But that's oftentimes how I will deal with, and it's funny because when you're looking back through your photos from your trip, you'll be like, why do I have so many lousy bleached out photos or overly dark photos or what? But then I have to remember I'm doing this because there's certain information there that I need when I'm building up my painting. Because it's very obvious when somebody's painting from a photo if their shadows are just all black.
Yeah.
Right? Because what they're doing is looking at the beautiful fiery shrubbery here and getting all that beautiful warm color in their photo, but then the shadows will all go black. Yeah. Or vice versa, where you're looking at the base of the trees and you love all the texture and the information down there in the shadows, but then all of a sudden your bushes get bleached out and kind of go to white or to very pale.
Yeah. So
the same thing can happen when you're taking pictures of your paintings. I mean, this is all in all a pretty decent photo. I know that you're saying the colors aren't quite there. As you take more photos of your artwork, you'll figure out different ways to manipulate the photos. For me, when I take a photo of my paintings, that's just step 1. I usually have about 3 steps of different types of altering the image, playing with the values, playing with the color contrast, playing with the temperature to try to get it to match my painting as closely as possible.
Yeah.
You guys do that as well?
Okay.
When you take photos of your artwork? So if you're using like an iPhone, there's a whole bunch of different editing you can do. And then there's also a couple different apps that are free that can do a great job of changing your scenery, your photo.
Okay.
Great. All right. Well, let's compliment you here for a minute on this beautiful painting. My favorite thing, and the thing that really draws my attention, I mean, the beautiful reds are great, but also you've got these nice spindly kind of craggy branches here. And the fact that you have such nice control going from slightly thicker down to thin is really nice. You're also really great with texture. Like the pine trees have a different feeling than the bushes. The bark has its own feeling. The only thing that feels a little left out, because everything else has such nice texture, basically the top 2/3, is the ground. The ground feels a little bit just kind of thrown in.
It was.
Yeah. And that's the problem, right? When you paint a couple things really nicely and with love and concern, And then the areas you're like, dirt. Who wants to paint dirt? You know?
It was just a matter, I ran out of time.
Yeah, totally. You know what? This wasn't a dirt painting class. I'm only grading you on your trees, and you get an A+. So nicely done. Nicely done.
Yeah, those spindly branches are masterful.
Really, really great. Yeah, really great. And I'm just so proud that you took on, 3 to 4 different elements of trees and bushes and shapes and lights and darks, cools and warms. Really nicely done. Very proud.
Oh, thank you.
Yep. All righty. Let's go and see. Lisa,
Oh, I'm so glad that you did that tree there. I just love that tree.
this one here.
Yeah.
Yeah, hanging off the cliff. I don't know. Anyways, let's go ahead and click on there. It's interesting. Yeah, it looks.
Wow.
Yeah, look at that nice, delicate, those delicate little flowers and structures compared to the strength and durability of this tree really hanging on. And it's interesting how having that contrast of big, dark, strong shapes, very angular shapes, and then these delicate little organic shapes really helps to bring this piece together. I might like to have seen maybe some of these flowers kind of break into here as well. But yeah, really nice form and really nice shape here. Yeah, I don't think that Lisa is here with us today. I think she's teaching. Nice clouds as well. Very wispy and airy and transparent and soft and floaty. I mean, that just feels like I could look out my window and see that, in the evening. It really feels floaty, and for lack of a more elegant word, very soft and aloft and everything else. Very nice. Let's keep rolling through here.
Oh, nice.
Let's see if I can go kind of in order a little bit, right? So here is Laura's reference, correct?
Correct, in Menorca.
Looks nice in Mediterranean, doesn't it?
Very Mediterranean, yeah. But so green. I had no idea it was so green.
And then it will turn so yellow ochre soon, I'm sure.
True.
But yeah, really nice. That is neat with the flowers and the greenness. What was the temperature like when you were there?
Cold and windy.
Okay. Yeah, it turns really quickly from my understanding, because we were there right before tourist season and it was empty, and the water was really cold and it was beautiful, crisp.
Yeah.
And then literally, like, I think we were there a couple of weeks, and the last week, all of a sudden, everything just changed. It was just warm. There was 1,000 Germans and Russians and tourists everywhere, and really nice. So tell me, why did you not want to paint these trees?
Wait, the ones I did, I just simplified.
All right.
I thought it's kind of a simplified one. Oh, okay. So, there's this big, huge bank. There are 3 banks of foliage here. There's the shrub in the foreground, the spindly trees right behind it with the tops. You see only the tops of the spindly trees. And then behind that is this large mass that's actually quite distant. It's behind the hill.
Right. That looks like a forest almost back there. Like
It's pretty dense. And what I thought was, I had this plan. I was going to make the large mass in the back really toned down, really neutral, slightly lighter. And then the spindly trees, because they have all that really dark shadow on them, I was going to kind of amp up the shadow. And then the foreground shrub, I thought I would, just paint it dark, because things in the foreground look more dramatic that way. But it turns out I had kind of a light background to it. So, a dark background to it. So I lightened it up, and then it shrunk. But so I had this plan, and nothing came out the way I planned. So this is what I got.
I love it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All of your reasoning and
That's
all
nice.
of your thought processes are sound. I think they're all a good idea, every one of those. And that's what I kind of wanted to have you walk through, just so other people could hear it as well. Because
Right.
when, you know, this is a beautiful photo already. This is, you know, I would look at this and want to paint it. And then you went beyond that, saying, okay, I want to replicate this to, I want to use this to create something. You know,
Right.
something
Well,
in-
and I think this photo is an example of what you're describing, that when you look at this photo, it looks like one, maybe two large masses of foliage, but actually it's three distinct masses, and the camera did not distinguish them. So you have
Very,
to-
yeah, exactly right. Like, look at the shadows here in the foreground bushes. So when I'm talking about lights and darks, oftentimes I'm talking about within the shadows. That's where you'll see it the clearest. So when we look at how dark these are, and then we go back in here, of course, this is very dark because it's, you know, a dark forest kind of area, very dense. But the truth is, if we were out there looking at it with our own eyes and not the phone's optical eye, this would be lighter and cooler and grayer because of the amount of depth. And what's interesting is even the shadows back here, way back here, are still very, very dark
in the photo.
in the photo because the camera caught all the information in the sky.
Yeah.
So to get all of this really bright light information, it had to go through and kind of make all the shadows darker than they would be in real life. That makes sense to everybody. This is exactly kind of going back to what we were just talking about. So that being the case, you know, if this is the photo, I would exactly do what Laura was just talking about, is try to figure out what darks, which things do I want to bring forward? Which things do I want to bring interest to, right? Because our eye is attracted to contrasts, lights and darks, strong edges. It can be contrasts of color. It can be contrasts of temperature. It can be contrasts of values, lights and darks, right? And stronger edges is what attracts the eye. So if you want the eye to be in here, this area, which I imagine you do, that's how you're going to do it. And then where you want things less interesting, where you want the viewer to look less, not to pay attention to, we can soften the edges, right? Blur the edges a little bit. And that's us seeing like humans versus seeing like a phone, because the phone treats everything equally. All edges are treated equally. But as humans, if we just focus on these trees, look at your screen and look at this little bunch of branches and needles right here, and notice, keep your eyes there, don't look away. I'm going to move the mouse and look at what happens over here, but keeping your eyes here, what's happening to the horizon line? Is it on the edges? It gets softer and more dissipated, doesn't it? As we look here, our brains are editing for us, right? Our brains are saying, this is what's, you know, I'm focusing on. Again, the example I use all the time is when we're talking to somebody, right? We can focus on their face or on their mouth even, or their eyes or whatever. And then the rest of their body, literally even their forehead or the top of their head, can become soft and out of focus to us. And that's how humans see, because we're editing all the time. We're saying, what's the important information right now? There's just too much information coming in, right? But the phone or the camera doesn't see that way unless we make it somehow through manipulation.
Yeah, somebody should create a photo filter that will do the landscape, just the perfect landscape photo, you know, by calculating the distance of everything and then washing it out according to how far away it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what's neat about the different applications and different things, is we can do so much of that now by going through and, you know, editing out a little bit.
True, but you lose the distance information once the camera takes the photo because it flattens it all down, especially for trees. Geez.
Absolutely. So then this is your acrylic black and white, I'm guessing?
Yeah, yeah.
And then you colored it up.
with
It
acrylic.
looks like you did translucent as well as a little more opaque in some areas.
Yeah.
I love that foreground grass and the texture that you got in all of the grass. It's just, it's really nice. It's very nice to look at the whole painting.
Well, thank you. It looks a lot nicer now than when I was struggling with it last night.
Oh,
I
I
have to
think
say.
the tree is just fabulous. I just really enjoy that.
Thank you.
Me too.
I was happy with the tree. I'm not sure about the total composition.
Oh, I
Yeah,
think
so
it's
what I would
great.
probably do is something kind of like this.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing. Yeah.
Is I'm constantly saying, all of this out here is, it's something. It tells us that there's a hill. All of this up here is something. It tells us there's a big, nice sky. But is that important? Where do I want the viewer to go?
Yeah.
Well, I
Here.
think I had also wanted to put in the diagonal clouds to create that sideways chevron in the composition.
Sure.
But I just didn't have time to do the work on the sky. So maybe I could still add it in, but might take another crack at this.
Yeah,
Slightly
I mean,
larger
personally, I like kind of like this edit where my eye just rolls back really quickly, gets into what's interesting. You could, still hint at some of those angled clouds a little bit if you
Yeah.
wanted to here.
Well, I was studying Mark Bond's paintings,
Yeah.
and he doesn't put blue in his sky, and sometimes he just touches it at the top and indicates where the clouds are
Mhm.
by making the negative shapes with the blue. So I think that's what I had in mind, but I didn't get to it.
What's his name?
MARC, Mark, and then BOHNE.
Yeah, his paintings are so inspiring.
For sure. Yeah, I find myself, he's probably in my top 10 artists that I refer
Yeah.
to and look at often, even though he treats almost all edges pretty crisp. Not all the time, but a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But it's,
Oh, he simplifies so beautifully.
oh yeah, the guy's a design master. Really just beautiful designs. And a lot of times you kind of can't even tell, like, why is this working so well?
Right.
Yeah, also, I think his name was Kevin Lovelace. He painted on copper, unfortunately passed away a little while back. But he was also another Washington painter. And your colors here remind me some of his work. And he did a lot
look
of
him up.
Italian scenes and Spain, scenes of Spain and stuff. Anyways, very nice, very nice, very nice.
Thank you.
Oh, what is this?
That was my original color map that I was going to adhere to and
Okay.
failed to completely.
That's amazing. I've never done anything that detailed as far as planning.
Well, I studied all of Mark Bond's paintings that I thought were similar. And I figured out, what I would need to do to try and get his effect. And then I started painting and my brain went somewhere else.
Well, and I think that is right. I think we are reacting to what's happening a lot of times as, the best laid plans, right? Or Mike Tyson
Right,
said that,
right.
all planning goes out the window once you get punched in the face. And paintings have a tendency to punch us in the face in a good way or a bad way. Just by putting two colors next to each other, all of a sudden you're like, that's amazing, or that's not working. And our best laid plans kind of go out the window. So I like to have an idea. I like to have a general plan, something to start with. And then often, I also want to be reacting and dealing with what's going on and having that conversation with the paint. So yeah, very nice, Michelle. Look at this. So this is the one that this was your black and white and then you colored over it.
Yeah, I did not get to paint this week. I'm so sad, but yeah, that was my sky. And so the trees, like, I do want to go back into it, but it was fun.
Oh yeah, no, it looks like you had fun. It looks, I like the fact that you've got some transparent color, you've got some opaque color, you've got hard edges, soft edges, different textures to, and to tell us different things are going on. I might like to see a little bit of texture in the grass to kind of go with the textures that you have in the trees, keeping them different than each other, but your texture in the tree is so strong and so interesting that I think even if you kind of texturized in a path, kind of something leading us in, I see you have this kind of angular here, but I think maybe something subtle, not over, not super strong.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
That might help. Nice job on the clouds. Be careful with the white paint, and that could be just from the photo. But white, you can see here, wants to get cool, right? And is that your sun kind of blasting through the warm clouds? Is that-
Yes.
yeah. So you see how it all of a sudden reads as a cool color. So that's a tough thing about when you want to get really, really, really light with something, and we end up going to white, it will cool down. So a lot of times keeping in mind that white is a color or a temperature shift unto itself. So that can be a little bit tough.
When it's dry, you could glaze over it with a slightly warmer tint.
Yep.
Good idea.
Yeah, very nice. So is this out there in Forest Grove, or?
This was a golf course that my husband and son went to and took a picture.
All right, very nice. Yeah, I think this was a great example of painting the tree, making it interesting. You could have easily just painted this as a big solid mass, and it could have lost all interest, right? It could have become a lollipop or whatever. So this is really nice. And then you have each one of these trees back here gets a little bit of character back on the horizon line. You're not just replicating forms and shapes over and over. So nice job.
No, it was just a one-time sitting, so it's definitely not done, but thank you for looking at it.
Absolutely. All right, Laura, since we talked so much about that one, I'll just kind of quickly go through some of your little quick demos here, but very nice shapes. Great value contrasts, warms and cools, or not even warms and cools, lights and darks, sorry. And what I really like here is that you trusted the viewer to go ahead and know this is a trunk. You didn't have to outline it. You lose, there's a little bit of an outline, but very subtle. But we know that this is a trunk because it's next to the shadow, even though it's almost the same color as the grasses and stuff. So we don't have to overly describe things. And I'm always appreciative of when people do trust the viewer to see things and make shapes. Very nice.
Thank you.
And yeah, good breaking up a form. Like there's a little bit more on the right side than on the left side. Everything's kind of irregular and nice.
Yeah, your demo on that was really useful.
Oh, good. And so I changed the security on our class last week. It sent me an email and was like, would you like to do this change? And I was like, oh, okay. And all of a sudden we had 10 new students join our little group. So I've sent them all emails explaining what's going on, and I'll go back and kind of.
I got one of those emails, so somehow I got caught up in that net.
You did, and I apologize. Yeah, you were because you're the last one. So it was everybody.
Well,
everybody
I
that joined in
figured.
the last week. Beautiful painting, Ennis. I wish you were in our class. Very nice. And yeah, this is a tree. I think it's kind of close to the California border, or maybe I can't remember exactly. Maybe
It's Washington.
It is Washington. You're right. Yeah. That I've always wanted to go visit and see, kind of a cave underneath it, and really interesting. I see photos of it pop up from time to time. But anyways, nicely painted. Wish you were in the class, and maybe sometime down the line we can all paint together. And Fred, how you doing, Fred? Are you here?
Yep.
Great. All right, let's go ahead and look at your reference really quickly. Unauthorized use prohibited. Way to just go ahead and post the warning right on there. Nice job.
Well, yeah, I wasn't paying attention.
That's all right.
Yeah, it's a throwaway anyway, but what I liked was how it sort of shined. I liked how warm it was, and just sort of leapt off the page. So
Yeah, and do you know why that is? What's going on there that's making it so dramatic?
well, I'd say it's the difference between the cool background and the warm tree. That's how I explain it. I don't know.
Yeah, you are halfway there. The other thing would be the contrast in value, just that super dark
Yeah.
versus the super light. That helps it to just come forward and jump off. So a lot of times, like we were saying earlier, is the eye goes to where the strong contrast is, right?
Mhm.
So this is a great example of that. Yeah, so I would think of this more initially as values, lights and darks, than warms and cools. But I think that the warms and cools definitely do come into play, especially when you're looking into the trunk and you've got the nice warmish reddish colors versus the cool blue greens in the shadows back here. In the leaves, I actually read these as quite cool. Like that's a very cool light green to me.
Oh,
So, I could either warm these up if I was painting them, or I could warm up the background darks a little bit if I wanted to. If I wanted to play up the contrast of temperature a little bit. But anyways, nicely done. Here we go. So yeah, so you actually you went in and cooled down the area within the tree, the greens and the darker greens within the foreground tree. And then you warmed up the edges, just kind of like I was saying. So here they're more light and, but you added more yellow to these outside areas of the shrub or the tree to actually play up. And isn't that tough when we photograph in the darks and in the shadows?
Yeah.
Really get glary. It's the opposite of what we want. We want this to be as dark as possible, but instead, because darks when photographed often pick up a lot of bright glare. But anyways, we know what's going on.
yeah. I'm still struggling with simplifying. I get caught up in rendering, and I'm still trying to figure out how to unify a shape, and unify an image so that, it reads more like a tree than, well, I think there's too much rendering.
I think that, it's like you did really good on 3/4 of it, and then you kind of got down here and you started to get a little rendery and maybe on the edge, but I actually like the edge quality that you've created a lot. Also, I do think you've done a pretty great job of simplifying areas that can be simplified and then bringing our interest into areas that are, why you chose this painting or this photo, right? Was the contrast, was this kind of glowy tree versus the dark background. And so I think that you're playing a lot of that up really well. Yeah, and you got the warms versus the cools. I think you could probably even cool down some of these shadows a little more.
Mhm.
You see how they get a little bluer and softer here versus the warm, kind of darker reds.
Yeah.
But I think all in all, you did a great job. I think there's, you've got nice kind of outside shapes. For some reason, all of a sudden you kind of changed how you're painting right in this part of the tree.
I think part of it has to do, Fred, with your cooler shadows on the tree are probably too dark for the effect you want. Because if you squint, you can no longer distinguish the tree very well from the background. And you could have just hinted that shadow much lighter, kept the whole thing sort of a lemony, and you'd have much more drama. And that's one thing I've learned from watching Michael, is that when he goes from color to color in a tree or any other subject, he doesn't make big leaps, little tiny subtle color changes.
Yeah. I totally agree with what you're saying. I'll mix two colors together and I go, man, that's just too close. And I
I know
my instinct.
the tendency to say that, oh, that's practically the same color, I won't use it, is, it's strong, but in fact, I think I'm learning that it's often more effective.
Well, I'll keep
Because-
working on it. I appreciate the observation.
Fred,
Yeah,
I was gonna suggest when you take your photo, sometimes I'll hold my finger around the back and just tip the top forward. Tip the top forward, then it won't hit the glare so much.
yeah, that glare in the right-hand corner is just,
Hey,
It
pretty
just-
brutal.
yeah.
Yeah, so Michelle is right. If you just angle, a lot of times you just take your, so if your glare is up in the top right corner, what you're gonna wanna do is bring this corner down slightly towards you. And what's neat is it's very easy to fix angled photos. So you just take the photo, see if the glare has been dealt with. And then if you're using an iPhone, at least, you can straighten the image back out. It's pretty amazing.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
Android also has that in Google Photos. It's in the crop function.
Right. Yeah. So you would just go to the cropping and you can kind of straighten out the scene, and then you can lean it forward, lean it back, or whatever else. You can kind of do these interesting little modifications as far as angles. So great.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to quickly see. Let's see how many paintings everybody turned in, because we'll use the whole class in just giving feedback and critiques.
But we are being graded on quantity, not quality, right?
Quantity, yep. I completely grade by weight. So yeah, whoever's paintings weigh the most, or at least stack of paintings weighs the most, will win, get the A. So let's very quickly, let's look at Susan's picture real quickly here. Susan, nice job, beautiful colors. Interesting, nice shapes on this oak tree here. I'm going to go ahead and say a couple quick things. When you are painting a tree on a scene, please let it go off the edge.
Oh, okay.
Right now, it looks like it's in a terrarium. So it's going right up against the edge and it kind of stops, right?
Mhm.
So just let it go off the edge. Don't be afraid to do that. You're doing it fine with your pine tree. The top of it goes right off the top. But in here, it feels like, there's an edge, like it's growing up against this and stopping. And then when I get over to the pine tree, nice colors again, very vibrant and lush and healthy. But do you notice that by showing so much trunk down the middle, that it looks like it's almost been shaved? Like somebody came and cut all the branches off this side, and all the branches are just going off the right and the left side.
Yes,
And
yes.
we're going to want some of that green just to overlap here, and our brain will figure out what's going on. You don't have to overly describe a lot of things, just by simply having that. Because yeah, right now it just feels almost like a butterfly in a way. Like this is its body and these are its wings off to the sides, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you. I wondered if the fir tree had enough light on the branches. Yesterday I saw where the light would hit it on the fir tree in
Yeah,
real life in my yard.
if you were to ask me where is the light source on the fir
Yeah.
tree, I don't know if I could tell you.
Oh, okay.
On the oak tree, it's a little more obvious. It feels like it's coming from kind of up and to the right. The trunk down here is lit, branches in here, and it feels like the light's coming down. You got a shadow, but in here it feels kind of like, well, this is the greenest and brightest, so I feel like the light's hitting there, but I really can't tell you if that's being hit from the front, from above. So I don't know. Over here you have a bit of a light on this shadowy dark, but if I go up the trunk, all of a sudden it's on the left side. So over here it's on the right side. On here it's on the left side. Here it looks like it's face lit. So I do. It's not clear to me.
Well, I wrote in the chat that I had a hard time. It was a busy week, but I had a hard time. I even thought of going to the Ray Atkinson books to get trees, because I am actually intimidated painting trees because I can't, I struggle with the leaves, but last week, your class helped so much just to focus on the shapes and the edges.
Yeah,
And this
look-
was just a study, not to take any more of the time here.
Oh, no, absolutely. And I'm proud of you. I don't want to bash on this by any means. I think you've done.
No, you're not. I mean, I feel bad I didn't do a painting, but I mean, I just was focused on the umbrella shape, the cone shape, and trunks were easy. It's just the leaves. I look at them, I don't know how much to put in with leaves.
Yeah, yeah. And it's going to be painting by painting, right? There's no like real rule of, put 10% of your leaves in detail or anything like that. It's painting by painting and, season to taste, as I like to say, a little bit more leaves or maybe a little less, depending.
Okay, thank you. I'm learning to see from your classes. Thank you.
Great. All right, back to the clouds here. Norman is another person I think that joined us, kind of jumped in this last week. I wish he was in the class as well. He seems to have a lot of good ideas and feedback. So Norman, if you ever see this or anything, thank you. And hopefully you'll join us in one of the classes down the line. Oh, yeah, we're back to Ines. And
I don't think my painting even got in here, and I don't know.
I'm not seeing it, Gail. Yeah.
No, I somehow am not being able to get my paintings into this group.
Is there a chance that you might be posting it to one of the older groups?
Yeah, possibly.
Also, sometimes when you think you're posting to the group, you're posting to your own timeline.
Well, it
Right.
may be, I don't know. I've never been successful getting paintings into these groups, and I'm doing something wrong. I'll figure it out.
And you can always email it to me, Gail, as well.
All right, thank you. I
That's for
will.
a couple of you if you're having a difficult time. We got a couple new ones. Kathleen just posted. Look at that, Kathleen. Nice. All right.
Nice.
So this kind of goes into what we were just talking about with Susan about kind of trying to figure out where the light source is.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
with this, it's a very soft light, right? It's kind of an overcast day kind of feel. But at the same time, you still know that the light's coming from up above. And then we got this cast shadow here. So it kind of tells us that the sun's off to the right, up above, coming down, illuminating, or conversely, telling us where the shadows are. Nice job. There's a little bit of these branches being scared of each other. They're all kind of separate from one another. They're not really touching or overlapping as much as I think they might be in real life. But I have some fir trees, pine trees where they are, the branches do keep definitely some space. You've got down towards the bottom, you've got a couple that are overlapping the center. You might want to bring that up. If I was to look from halfway up, the branches are more just off to the sides. Nice job. And here's a great little thing that Kathleen is so good about is her cast shadows will often tell us so much about what the light is doing. So if you notice, her cast shadow is very soft edged, kind of dissipated. And what that tells us is that we have kind of an overcast, soft light source. Strong, crisp shadows mean that you have a strong, crisp light source. Soft, dissipated shadows or very, very, very vague shadows mean that it's more overcast and you're dealing with more of a dissipated light source. Does that make sense? A lot of times when I'm out plein air painting, I'll actually look at my own shadow to kind of figure out what kind of light am I dealing with? Am I casting a strong, crisp shadow, or is the shadow very, very soft and, not with strong edges? Or sometimes there's almost no cast shadow, right? Meaning it's very overcast, which we get here in the Pacific Northwest a lot. Nice job, Kathleen. Are you
Thank you.
here, Kathleen? I'm not seeing you.
Oh, I'm here.
Great. How's everything going? How's your mood?
Oh my gosh, trying to find time to paint has been difficult.
Oh yeah, but remember, painting's always the most important thing in life.
Right, right. I'll tell the movers when they arrive and my things aren't packed.
Yeah, they'll get it. They'll get it. Totally.
Uh,
This is yours as well. All right. Nice, interesting shapes. Great differentiation in your sky holds or negative shapes, right? This is a lovely tree. Very spring, very lush and verdant and healthy looking. I don't know if I would think it was an oak tree so much just because of the colors, but that's not that important. There's all sorts of different trees that have these kind of similar structures.
yeah, I
Yeah,
think
it
I got
really
two
feels
yellow.
like spring and very, very happy. What were you saying? Sorry.
I said, I think I got it too yellow.
It does feel a little yellow, but that's here or there. We were more interested in the shapes and the structure. And yeah, I know that you don't, that trunks or the branches oftentimes can be a little bit, you can use smaller brushes
Okay.
so that you can kind of elongate some of these and have a little more differentiation in the size of your branches. This feels a little more antler-like.
Okay. All
Um,
right.
I think that's the right
Maybe
word, antler.
Like
Maybe
what's
it's a
that deer
future.
doing up in the tree?
Yeah, just have him peeking out.
Uh,
Wouldn't that be kind of a fun little guy, little deer hanging out up there?
that reminds me of a joke back in the day. It was
Uh-oh.
book titles, Yeah. Antlers in the treetops. Who goose the moose?
I like it. Who Goose the Moose? Sounds like a Dr. Seuss book.
Yep. Well, anyway, yeah.
Nicely done. It really does. It has a very spring, fresh. I've said this before about some of your work, and I do not mean anything negative about it at all. It has a nice kind of kids book illustration feel to it. And I think that when I said that before, you kind of took it as a negative, but I really don't mean that. I just mean that it's very nice and welcoming, and literally, put a couple kids sitting cross-legged down here reading a book, and it's just kind of a perfect little Sunday afternoon scene. Nicely done. Anyways, great shapes, and your I think from the last couple classes where I kept saying, where's your light source? Where's your light source? I think that it's definitely sinking in, and you are all about having a nice, cohesive, consistent light source in both of your tree paintings. So nice job. Anything else you'd like to add?
No, those were done so quickly. I just tried to get it done. So
Perfect.
they weren't meant to be paintings. They were meant to be studies. So
Great. Well, I am proud of you, and I appreciate anytime you can give to the class, and I completely understand with moving. All right. I feel like we've done a lot there. I don't think this is actually one of the students. Sheila, are you here? No, Shayla. All right. So let's, so anyways, let's go to the filter. I went ahead and posted a bunch of references for water, including some of my own paintings. Some of these are borrowed from just online. A lot of them are my photos. So if you do paint these, just kind of realize that they might not be, I was wondering where some of these paintings went to. I just put them in the wrong folder. What I wanted to show with some of these photos is that when we are dealing with water, we are dealing with a couple different big things. I'm going to try and bring up my notes really quickly here. And so that was something that was really interesting to me when I was first really focusing in on water, 15 years ago, and trying to figure out what is going on. Why is it so interesting and so strange? And that's what I realized, is that you're dealing with reflections, right? You can see these trees, the pine trees or fir trees or whatever, coming down. So you're dealing with reflections. You're dealing with transparency. This water is a little bit murky, a little bit muddy, but you can still see through it. You can really see through it where the water is not very deep at all. And then as the water gets deeper, you can still see the kind of shadowed edges of the rocks, but they're very, nondescript. You're dealing with the depth, right? The deeper the water, the different looks. And you're also dealing with movement. Like here we have a little bit of ripples. This water is barely moving. It looks like it's fairly still, but you can see that it's not mirror perfect, right? It's still got some ripples and different things. So when I'm out on location or when I'm looking at photos and deciding on the water and how to convey it in my scene, that's what I'm asking. Or what are the reflections? Are they really crisp? Is the water really still? That's like the easiest way to know if the water is really still is if the reflections are really clear. If the reflections are like they are here, where they're kind of broken up and that there's some ripples in the water, right? And then when you're dealing with the ocean and waves and stuff, you'll still see some of the reflected sky color, but it's just big shapes. You're not getting any detail. All right. So you got reflections, transparency, depth, and movement. Right. Then you also could have, different water. Like this water is a little bit greenish, a little bit murky. It looks like it's probably kind of towards the end of the summer when the algae and different things are starting to affect the colors of the water. So you do have the color of the water itself. Right. You have the transparency. So you have the color of the things that are underneath the water, right? These rocks appear to be kind of warm, kind of yellow, ochre, gold greens. So anyways, I tried to grab a bunch of different types of water. I had a whole bunch of ocean scenes, but for some reason those didn't save. So I'll add those for next week's class. Feel free, please, to use whatever water references you would like to paint from. This week, I want to deal more with still water, creeks, ditches, ponds, whatever else. And next week, we're going to deal more with like this, more of moving water, waterfalls, rapids, and waves.
Michael, one of the things about still water that I find so challenging is to get all those variations in color and reflection. It's very hard to keep the water looking flat. So if you have any insights on that as you demo, be sure to share.
Yeah, so that is a really good observation. And a lot of times what I notice is it's the edge where the ground and the water meet that gives me the most information as far as if my water looks flat. If I all of a sudden, make this dark line where the two things meet, if I all of a sudden give it big bumps, all of a sudden it just doesn't feel flat. Or if the angle is too much compared to what it should be, all of a sudden it looks like this is running downhill or even worse, uphill. You definitely don't want your water looking like it's running uphill. Yeah, this is Punch Bowl Falls in Eagle Creek Wilderness area in Oregon along the gorge. I paint this every couple of years. They had a massive fire a couple of years ago. Yeah, I love painting this scene. And what I really like is the water is just pristine. It's so clean and clear. And then you have these, leaves floating on top, which are so nice. And you still get the waterfall reflection. It's interesting. I thought I had a couple photos from there. Here is a scene that I've wanted to paint. And it's almost abstract. And what I love is you just kind of get into these transparent rocks underneath, and you have just enough movement in the water that it's kind of causing them to look melty or soft edged yeah. Anyway, so there's this little bit of movement in there. And then you have the leaves floating on top. So you're dealing with depth. You're dealing with the clarity, the transparency of the water, a little bit of movement, but not so much that things are completely obscured. It's just, if it was not moving at all, these tree trunks that are reflecting here would probably just be straight up and down, but instead you got these little bit of swerve. So it's amazing how when we look at something like this scene, how our brain just instantly knows what's going on, right? It knows that this is shallow water. We could easily stick our feet in there and be pretty safe, except for maybe some crawdads. And you got a little bit of movement, a little bit of, like, the water's, not just still, and you've got, it's very clean, very clear.
That looks so difficult, but it would be fun if, I feel like it would take a long time to get all those different textures and colors and shapes.
Yeah, and it would really be a trick of how do I look at it abstractly, right? Because if I'm all of a sudden, now I'm painting trees reflections, that wouldn't work. Now I'm painting rocks, it wouldn't work. So this is where observation really, really comes into play. Of this is a dark mass with, this kind of amoeba-like shape, and then you got some kind of crisper, more geometric shapes and shadows down here and lights. Yeah, so you definitely just want to keep your brain in a very abstract way of thinking. Yeah, it would be so fun. And there's some artists that are just so amazing at this. Yeah, this is kind of one of the scenes I'm contemplating painting really quickly today, just to show you the start of a painting, and then I will quickly transfer over to a dry version of a painting so we can paint the water. All right, so anyways, Sauvie Island, outside of Portland. This is in Cannon Beach, that little creek that goes through town. Sauvie Island, lots of Sauvie Island stuff here. I paint out there a lot. This is a painting I did for a client, Canoe People, and they just wanted a little bit of a hint of the water, like it's very shallow. So there's just a hint of the rocks. As well as the sunset colors. Anyways. Yep, great. And let's quickly, and then we're going to take a break. I'm going to quickly go back over to the water paintings of water. So I do have just a number of examples of different artists' renderings of water. Would you guys like to go over that, or would you guys like to get to painting?
Get to painting.
Get to painting. Yeah, I feel like we've done a lot here, but there's all sorts of different types of water, shallow, clear water, very impressionistic. It looks like palette knife. This is the Jeff Daniel Smith and Sindra Bradford, a husband and wife team that paint together. I had not seen their work before, but I thought it was sure kind of had a very decorative but very beautiful look to it. This has long been one of my favorite paintings by Kim Lordier. But it's a pastel painting, but we won't hold that against her. But I love the colors in this. And this one is one that pops up for me online every once in a while. Ken Knight, he's an Australian painter. And what fun how he's dealing with texture. He's got really thick, brushy work in the sand here, in the drier sand, just kind of hinting at some people sitting on the beach. And then where he's got the wet sand, you can literally see that he just painted it in and then took his palette knife or a squeegee or something and pulled it down so that it's this very smooth surface there. And I just think it is so fun how it really creates this illusion of different things: water, wet sand, and dry sand. So anyways, I grabbed that, show you guys. Grabbed a couple that are more on the simple, kind of almost just design wise. I really like this guy's work. And of course, we got some Monet, and I grabbed one of Sue Charles water. This is how I'm going to be treating my water today in the painting, is we're going to be treating, and if you read the notes, I talk about that oftentimes if there are cheats or little secrets to painting kind of almost smooth water, but not fully smooth, what I will often do is pull my brush from the top down, grabbing a little bit of that color and bringing it down. And then I will take and make a couple of horizontal strokes into that to kind of break it up and create a little bit of a sense of movement. So for those of you who are taking notes today, the notes that I would have you do is that a very quick, almost like a cheat and almost like a kind of way to make your water feel like water very quickly at the end of your painting is to drag your paint down horizontally from top to bottom, grabbing a little bit of the color, a little bit of the values, and then figuring out, if it's got a lot of movement, you can drag your brush very, more across the horizontally. If it's not a whole lot of movement and it's fairly still, just a couple little light horizontal strokes will do it. Also, here's the other note for today is in the reflection, the darks are not as dark as the object that they are reflecting, and the lights are not as light as the item they are reflecting. They go towards the mid a little bit. And again, when it comes to observation and looking at the scene, those rules don't always apply, those guidelines, but it feels better to the viewer. And it's a great way to kind of make it feel like water and reflections is by simply doing the brush strokes horizontal or from top to bottom, and then from side to side, and then from bringing your darks a little bit lighter and your lights a little bit darker in the reflection. Any questions there?
No, but could you resend those notes because some of us didn't get them?
Sure, I definitely will, and they are also on the main page as well.
If you got the email with saying, looking forward to seeing you in class tomorrow, they are in that. It's just down. You have to kind of scroll down a little bit.
Oh, thank you. I'll have to look for that.
Yeah, so did you get the announcement of the class today at all?
I did, but now I can't find it, so I don't know what happened to it.
Everything's moving. Yeah. Okay. Great.
I had some computer issues.
No problem. I will get those out to you guys again. Let's go ahead and take a 10-minute break. It's 10:10, so roughly just after 10:20. Let's come back and I will do a quick demo painting of the underpainting, and then I will switch over to a dry painting and we will color it up and bring in reflections. How's that sound? Perfect. All right. See you guys in 10 minutes. Go get more coffee.
Good morning, Catherine.
Hi, did they say where the notes are? I didn't understand where the notes were.
No, I didn't get them because I just signed up yesterday, so
Oh,
he didn't send anything to me.
oh, he didn't? Okay,
No.
good morning.
Good morning.
You're quiet back there.
Well, I had to be gone for the last two sessions, so I started and then I started again.
Oh, well, I have those. I have them, so
Good.
you can look at those because I.
Well,
go
we
back
better
and forth
just
with them.
get together for
Yeah.
a little munch over
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
painting again.
Oh, I was painting the trees and I was doing the background and tuning to the clouds and this and that, and then I did something and all of a sudden I realized I destroyed it. So
Oh.
I just thought, okay.
Well, I don't know. I've got to figure out how to add my paintings to this group, because I thought that I did it right, and it just, my paintings never seem to arrive here. So
Oh,
anyway,
well, you have such great paintings, so it'd be fun to
No,
see
well,
what
you're
you
very
have.
nice to say that, but this one I was really having trouble with. I like it a lot in person, but again, the photography is really difficult.
Oh my
But
gosh,
it-
the one small one that I did for
Uh-huh.
this, I was so disappointed in what he had to post because it just, it didn't show, like the darkness back there.
Mhm.
For whatever reason, the camera caught that and I could not get the glare off of that picture.
Well,
It
that
just-
was interesting about angling the camera down. I
Yeah.
thought that was, I need a better camera. That is really what my problem is. I'm still on a 7 iPhone and I need
Well, I
to.
have a 13, I have the 12X.
The iPhone 7 takes great pictures. What are you talking about? Much better than
Yeah,
my
well-
Android.
Well, mine's an iPhone 12 or something like that. It's not the 13, but it's just me not understanding how to take a picture, but because it was disappointing because you couldn't see the depth perception in that picture that I shared. And
Well,
so,
I have a little Canon camera and I've got to start just using it. The girls gave it to me for Christmas and it's, still in the box.
how do you transfer the picture though?
Well, it's on a, oh God, I don't know. That's part of the difficulty. I'm having trouble.
I sent my picture today to Michael just because I didn't have the time to figure out how to transfer from my phone, but also
You
I
can just send it from your phone, I think.
yeah, but I don't know where to send it or how to send it.
Well, that's my
into
problem. I
Facebook.
guess I'm sending mine to the wrong places because this has happened to me over and over in this
Yeah.
class and I don't know.
I know I can send it to other people, but I just don't know how you get into Facebook or
Yeah.
how you send it to get it posted.
He's never,
So
I've never gotten a painting critiqued or anything because I guess I sent him to the wrong place always. So,
Do you have
anyway,
the Facebook app on your phone?
yes, I do. And so
Ah.
and I thought I sent it to the
Oh.
right place yesterday, but I obviously didn't. So
But
anyway,
you can't open the app and then when it says, write something here, click the little camera or
yeah,